Okay, this is now the tarot process part 21, I think. And this is the 9th card in a Celtic Cross. So this is my trusty diagram. And we've got this was card 7, 8, 9. So the 9th, we're going up, the last card is going to be up here at number 10. And the 9th card shows the hopes and fears of the questioner when it comes to the question. And people get mixed up with this and they're not sure, does the card in the 9th position represent something you hope for, or is it something you're afraid of? So I'll discuss a little bit about hopes and fears. And I'm going to mention the 5th position as well. And this is the 9th card. So by the time we get, I'm suggesting that you don't, when you do a Celtic Cross, you lay the cards face down first and turn them over, come up with something sensible or that relates and gives part of the answer, and then turn the next card rather than start off with all the cards face up, because then you're going to pick and choose what you are comfortable with. And it may be okay for you, the reader, because you're comfortable with it, but it's not always going to be that helpful for the questioner. Because sometimes what's valuable to the questioner is not so much the answer, but it's how you get to the answer, right? So you're going to talk about this and then that and then that and then something else. And while you're talking around the houses, so to speak, then certain things are going to occur to the questioner that will be useful for them. Maybe it's something they thought about and ignored, or something they thought about and immediately rejected because they didn't like the sound of it. So there's value in not just being told, yes, it's going to work, but being told what to look out for and what's not going to work so easily or what's not going to work so well, and why you maybe ought to go in this direction rather than that one. So it's a kind of a journey of exploration for the questioner. And that's partly one of the values of a Celtic Cross, that you've got 10 cards all looking at the same situation but from a different point of view and giving different kinds of information about the people and circumstances involved with the question, rather than just like, will this work? Yes, no. Yes, it's going to work. It can be too quick. But with the Celtic Cross, you need a little bit of time. And so by the time we get to the 9th card, hopes and fears, we've already spoken a lot and we've said a lot about the different cards that have come up. So it's not the question is not the same at this point that they were at the beginning before they'd heard anything. So hopes. Is it hopes or fears is what people sometimes want to know. And so you could do, if the card is upright, it's what you hope for. If it's upside down, it's what you're afraid of. And that might be a general starting point for you, the reader, to look at the card that's come up. And so, but the thing is, people can be, let's say the sun comes up, or the magician, or some card that shows success. People can be afraid of success. You know what I mean? People can be afraid of good relationships. So I don't think you can automatically assume that if the card is upright, it's what they hope for. If it's upside down, it's what they're afraid of. I think with every card, you always have to think it through. And so if the card that in the 9th position shows a good relationship, you maybe go back to the 7th card, which shows the present position of the questioner. Because if earlier cards have shown difficulties in relationships, or somebody who's determined to be miserable about a certain situation, because some people are like that, they're happy to be unhappy because it's what they know. You know that expression, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And that's true for a lot of people a lot of the time. They would rather suffer in silence and stick with their pain rather than make an effort and change it. So you may be up against, or the question may be up against that kind of situation. So you really need to look at the card itself and think through the cards that have come up earlier. So the thing about hopes is it's about the future, because it hasn't happened yet. You hope that this will happen or that will happen, but it hasn't happened yet. It's in the future. And the same with fears. If you're afraid of something, it hasn't happened yet, and maybe it never will. But again, you're dealing with the future. So, but if I want to mention the fifth card, which is what may come, and it's a bit like, let's say the Two of Cups comes up in the fifth position, and you say to the person, what may come is a new relationship or a new beginning in an ongoing relationship. The questioner might think, great, just what I want. In which case, they're cooperating with what may come. And so there's more likely, remembering that we get back what we give out. Okay, so that if we're looking for and wanting a new relationship, we're going to attract it. Then it's up to us to pay attention to see what comes. Because it's easy for a new relationship to hit you in the face and you ignore it. So there's that to remember as well. So the Two of Cups comes up as what may come, and you say to the person, new beginning, a new relationship, or a new beginning in a current relationship. But the questioner might say, that's exactly what I don't want. I don't want a new relationship. I don't want a new beginning. And that's fair enough. So if somebody reacts to what may come that way, then they're sort of closing the door on it. So what may come is, it's not something you've been thinking about, or it's not something that you particularly want, but it's maybe something that is a gift, or it's a possible gift. Whereas within the ninth position, because it's a bit like a more personal view or vision of the future that the questioner has. So if we've got a card that shows optimism and confidence, then they're going into the future of the answer to the question with a certain amount of confidence and optimism that things are going to work out the way they want. Whereas if the card in the ninth position is negative in some way, or shows doubt or fear or unhappiness, this can be what they're afraid of, that they're going to have to go through a difficult period, experiencing things you don't want. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, said fear, F-E-A-R, future experiences appearing real, F-E-A-R, or future events appearing real. But the thing about it is, it's future and it hasn't happened yet, but it appears to be real. And so we can look at the card in the ninth house to get an idea of how optimistic or pessimistic the person is, what they've been imagining for themselves, what they've been hoping for, what they've been trying to avoid, whatever it happens to be. And I guess I'll pick a card. So again, it can depend on the question and what cards have come up earlier. But let's see, there's the Four of Batons, right? So we've got kind of celebration and people waiting to welcome you. So if that's in the ninth position, it looks quite good that we still have the 10th card to look at, and that's the final outcome. And the thing is, I think with the Celtic Cross, you look at each card on its own, but you also have to fit it in with the rest of the cards that have come up. And it can be a complicated story that you're telling, and it can be a complicated situation the person is in. But with the Four of Batons upright in the ninth position, then it looks good for you will have reason to celebrate, whatever that might mean. So for one person, celebration might mean the whole family gets together and you have a nice time together. Whereas for somebody else, celebration might be, finally I've been left alone and I can get on with what I want to get on with. But in one way or another, you look at the picture on the card, and we've got celebration happening or about to happen. Whereas, again, with the four of batons upside down, somehow this is a good card because it represents celebration. When it's upside down, not quite 100% celebration. So yes, you'll have reason to celebrate, but maybe you'll discover that it wasn't quite as good as you thought it was going to be, or certain people that you want to become involved in the celebration aren't able to make it, or don't share your enthusiasm. Again, I think you'll know what to say because you've already looked at the previous 8 cards. So I'm sort of but I'm not quite sure what words to use. But I think if we had considered the previous 8 cards, I was thinking before this, let's say somebody wants to buy a car, and there's a couple and they've got 3 children. You're not going to show them a Ferrari, right, which has got basically no seats in the back. So it's good for the parents maybe, but not for the children. So depending on the people and how many there are, you would show them, let's say, I can't think of a car, a Honda, right, with 3 seats or room for 3 in the back and 2 at the front. So you would show them a certain kind of vehicle, and you would not mention or not show them an Aston Martin or a 2-seater, right? And in the same way, by the time you get to the 9th card, you will already have spoken about what's going on, what has happened, what the person's building on, what may come, what will come, what kind of situation they're in, how the influence that other people are going to have. So by that point, when you turn the card in the 9th position, and let's say we get the 4 of batons, you're going to know what to say because it's going to tie in with or fit in with what you've been talking about, right? So you know the person needs a 4-door sedan car with a certain amount of room in the back, and you need space in the trunk for the back for luggage or for children's toys and the whole bit. So you know the kind of vehicle to show them. And in the same way, when you get the 4, let's say this is the card in the 9th position, because you've been talking about what they're going through and the kind of answer you get into the question, you're going to know what to say about this. Is it celebration, or is it the fact that other people are going to be celebrating with you? And that can be what's important. Whereas if we get, for instance, the 7 of Pentacles, somebody thinking, with your hopes and wishes are, maybe you hope for time to think things through, right? Because it's the person standing there thinking. And so when you turn this card, your first thought is probably not time to think things through, or maybe it is, but having time can be something that somebody would hope for, depending on the question. And whereas with the 7 of Pentacles upside down in the 9th position, what are you afraid of? You're afraid that you're going to have to make an instant decision, that you're not going to have the luxury of weighing things up and figuring out what's the best course of action, or who's the best person to deal with. You're going to be forced into a position, or you're going to find yourself in a position where there is no time to think things through. So before you go into the meeting, figure out what it is that you want. Don't go. Sometimes you have a conversation with somebody, and during the course of the conversation, you come to a conclusion, right? But other times, you go into the conversation knowing what it is that you want to get out of it, or knowing how you want the conversation to go, because you've got a thought about what outcome you want. So with the 7 of Pentacles upright, you go into the conversation And you can think about this, think about that, offer this suggestion, offer that suggestion. Whereas if the Seven of Pentacles is upside down, you're better to go into the meeting with an idea of what it is that you want to get out of it, or with an agenda, or with a list of points that you want to make, because there isn't going to be time. If you go in, try to sort of think on your feet, or if you go in uncertain about what it is that you want to get out of it, you're probably going to leave dissatisfied, because it's not going to go your way. Okay, I hope that was okay. So next, I'm thinking I'm going to say this now to make myself fulfill my promise, or tell myself, and I've got witnesses now that I have to do this. So the comments that people leave, I've been thinking what I'll do is I'll select a number of comments and I'll give the answer in the next video. So I'm dealing with comments that people have left, but I'm also dealing with concerns maybe that people have, or questions that they've got about how to read a card, for instance. So that's my master plan for episode number 22. So I just can't wait. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you can't wait either. Okay, goodbye. Bye-bye.